up, folks? How y'all doing?
Welcome to the Museum of Graffiti's Daily Artist Talk. As you know, we're here to connect with some of the best minds and talents of the culture. And you and I go way back to LA when I moved out there in the mid 90s. And you have a tremendous story to share with us. So I want to jump right into it with you. So what I'm going to do is just turn over the screen so people can see your fly hand styles. And I'll just read a quick little bio of you. Eric King Create Walker is a multi-talented artist from South Central Los Angeles, California. He prides himself by remaining true to his career as a graffiti artist, muralist, illustrator, graphic designer, and art instructor. He is heavily influenced by all elements of hip hop and is very passionate about being a motivational speaker to younger kids throughout communities and universities and throughout the world, wherever you travel. I want to say this about CRE8. You've done some great commercial work with Jennifer Lopez, Mia, Genuine, McDonald's, Nike, General Motors, even Dodge. But more importantly, you're the founder of the RTN, one of the founding members of RTN, Rocking the Nation. And as we think about you particularly in terms of West Coast graffiti, you're a community person. Your soul has always been connected to the community and giving back to the community. And I wanted to talk to you to start this conversation about the Crenshaw Wall.
Mm-hmm.
It's a well-known wall. You guys have been painting it for many years. Tell me the origins of this wall and why you guys have committed yourself to this project.
Well, that wall has actually been there. Well, first, let me say what's up, everybody. I wanted to say what's up first. As far as the Crenshaw Wall, that wall has actually been around since the 70s, maybe the 60s. And, you know, a lot of other muralists, you know, way beyond writers were painting on the wall before we even touched it. And so, you know, that wall was actually first hit with pieces back in 1987 out here in LA in 87. There was a few pieces on it, but there was a gentleman by the name of Clever from the DEF crew called Doing Everything Fresh. He was going to be the first writer to do a full-blown production mural on there. And the day before he was going to do the mural, he got murdered. So, you know, a lot of other writers in Los Angeles from all parts of LA came out and did murals on the wall. It wasn't until the year 2000 when me and my crew and my affiliates that's connected to my crew came out and we all participated on doing a big mural. The title of the mural is called Our Mighty Contribution. The mural basically is talking about our contribution of Black culture from the beginning of time, of civilization, all the way into what we perceive to be as the future. You know, so it tells a lot of our story in the edited version, as far as visually.
And it's a powerful mural. You guys have been campaigning to redo it. How's that going?
It's coming along good. It's called Destination Crenshaw. So with Destination Crenshaw, it's basically where the whole community of the Crenshaw district is being rebuilt. We currently have an extension of a train line, which would be the Expo line to the train that would take people to the LAX airport. So when people come from the airport, they could easily jump on the train and they could commute to different parts of the city. So that's what Destination Crenshaw is part of building throughout the Crenshaw community. And throughout the community, we're going to be doing murals, sculptures, and other type of things to uplift the community and to beautify the community. So that's part of what the mural project we're working on, in terms of enhancing it and then also taking the mural and rebuilding on it.
Yeah, and one of the things that I really like, and we were discussing this before was the culture-centric messaging, right? About African
Yes.
culture and its influence on the community, but also too, and how it shows up in your work and how powerful that is as a teaching tool, especially about community building and also communication, right?
Yes, definitely. Communication is the key, whether it's verbally through us talking, or even if it's through, visually putting a piece of artwork on the wall or canvas, communicating that way. So that's very important, being able to take your artwork and make a statement. I was once told, which is a powerful statement, they say a picture could tell 1,000 words just by looking at it, but it's all in how you interpret it. So that's very important to understand, is that as an artist, we have the power through our artwork to put up images or imagery and typography and make powerful statements, because art is healing. And when people see things of no matter what nationality, what background you're from, what age, people are very into looking at something that touches their soul.
One of the things that I like, again, your work comes back to this idea of culture. And now, when you go to kids and you teach them uh, about this culture, but you're teaching them with letter form, as opposed to kind of very literal images of people's faces, and like this exercise, for instance. Um,
Mhm.
how do you go about that with kids, of keeping them interested in, graffiti letter form?
Well, that's a good question. I thank you for asking me that. Well, here's the deal with that. A lot of places are losing the interest of kids in program because they don't have nothing that they can relate to. So by bringing me in, this is something that most kids are into because they really want to learn how to pick up a can and how to express themselves. So by having me be part of the project, luckily, I'm a writer that have a lot of knowledge and thorough training in producing a piece from start to finish in the correct manner. And so when they pull me into these programs with the students, I go in and I teach history, I teach letter theory, color theory, and I talk to the people about what it takes to put themselves at a level. And I make sure that when I'm speaking to them, I talk to them about having confidence and learning how to present themselves in whatever piece of work that they do, that they make for sure that it's of great quality, never slacking, making for sure at all time whatever piece you do is always something that's going to stand out. And so that's one of the things that they pull me in on, is that they see that when I teach, I come in with not only just the method of doing it, but the philosophy of motivation behind it. And so I definitely highly encourage, whether it's young kids all the way to adults. I've even taught a program one day where it was 31 teachers at this place called the Skirball Center. So I had to teach 31 teachers from 9 o'clock in the morning to 4 in the afternoon. And by the time I was done teaching those teachers that had degrees, they was blown away. They was like, wow, we never knew that this art form was so powerful to where it had a lot of components to it. And that was my job. My job was to go in there and to break it down so thorough to where by the time they walk away, they will have more of a respect for it. And so that's part of my mission and my duty, is to educate so that people would understand this art form a little bit more better than what the media put out there to destroy us.
What I appreciate about that is that you have, again, tremendous talent to walk into a workshop and paint somebody's portrait and face. But you do these workshops, again, focused on letter form, on the culture,
Hmm.
the history, the legacy of writing and style writing. You have been, you've said before that you were the defender of style writing,
Correct. Hmm.
and
Yeah, that's important.
so in terms of this outreach that you're doing now and teaching, there's a tremendous reward in this, isn't there?
Oh yeah, here's the reward. This is a true story. Just yesterday, I was at a grocery store in the parking lot, about to walk into the grocery store, and this guy pulled into the parking lot in his car. He looked at me and he got out the car. He said, "Are you Create?" And I'm looking like, "Where do I know you from?" He said, "Man, I was one of your students in elementary school." He said, "Man, I want to thank you so much, man." He said, "You taught me so much about this art." He said, "Man, I still carry those values to today." And now he wasn't the only one that ever told me that. There's been many of my students that I come across periodically to where they find me somehow on social media or they find me face to face and they always show me or tell me like, hey man, thank you. And so when I get a chance to witness that face to face, that touches my soul because that lets me know that I did a damn good job reaching the youth. You know, it's important to reach the youth, you know, or even the elders, you know, make a connection, bridge the gaps. That's very important, learning how to bridge the gaps.
Right. So there's this resistance from elders that don't understand it. There's this attraction by youth that, you know, need to speak through it and with it. How do you bridge that gap between the old and the young when it comes to understanding graffiti and graffiti style writing, or even muralism, right? Because you're a public painter as well.
Yes. I love your questions. I thank you greatly for these real good questions. I love
Uh,
people who could go into my brain on that level. Well, here's the deal. If it's the older generation or elders, you know, you got to have patience with them because they've been a little bit, in all due respect, brainwashed. So it's our duty to, when we talk to them, you know, speak to them out of respect. Sometimes I have people, they say, "Oh, what are you doing? You're a vandal." I don't get mad. I smirk and laugh at them in a humorous way, and I take the time out to really explain to them what this art form is all about. Once again, by the time I'm done speaking with them, they be like, "Wow, man, thank you so much." Sometimes they even say, "Well, I got a grandson or I got a kid that might need your guidance," and they'll you know, ask me, do I do private workshops, private lessons, you know, or hey, you know, my daughter work at a college, can you come speak at the college? And I'll do community outreach and go and speak to people at these different facilities. I even went to a detention center or like a jail for young people for the teens that was incarcerated. And I went in there and did a 45-minute lecture for the young men and another 45-minute lecture for the women, I mean for the young ladies. And I spoke to them about the art form and about what they can do to be able to take their art. And then I tell people in my lecture, even if you're not an artist, take my story of being determined, being passionate, and then wanting to excel in whatever it is that you want to do. Because everybody may not be an artist, but as long as you got that burning desire deep down within to keep pushing, you can do whatever you want to do. But in my case, I'm an artist, and as a kid, this is what I've taken to navigate myself through this creative journey in life. I want to say this. I had a teacher when I was younger in the seventh grade. She told me, put the graffiti art away. I don't want to see that. That will never be accepted in the art world. This is not acceptable. I don't want to see it. So one day I stayed up all night and did a piece on paper. Came to school while she was talking. Somebody had a piece of my artwork. They was passing it around the room while she was talking. Then the teacher actually grabbed my piece of art, came and stood right in front of me, tore my paper up, and dropped it on the floor into little shreds right in front of my face. Now, I want to say this real quickly. I want to say that that was my turning point, my strong pivotal point in my journey to either give up or to keep pushing. But guess what? I kept pushing. I told myself that I'm going to prove to my teacher and anybody else that didn't believe in what I was doing that I will be somebody. And with this art form, I'm going to take it to the next level. And I succeeded.
what I like about your statement and what you're saying is you've put a philosophy of positivity above practice, right? Because I think sometimes when we get so connected to practice, we're very vulnerable. So if
Hmm.
the teacher does that, then all of a sudden, you know, oh, you know, I'm a bit heartbroken about it. But your
Yep.
philosophy was like, hey, I got this. I got this. I'm going to
Hmm.
succeed regardless.
That's right.
So in terms of what happens next for you, in terms, you know, you start teaching. Forgive me for a second. 1 minute, I'm having a little technical difficulty. This just froze up. Bear with me 1 second.
That's right. Yeah, folks, to be determined, that means a lot. You know, I was the kind of person where I didn't hide what I did from my parents. I was privileged to have both of my parents in the home. And I used to show my father my pieces. He would take me to the yards and watch my back while I was out there spray painting. You know, my dad would put me on his shoulders while I was filling in my letters, and he would actually help me fill in the pieces. You know, so it was like people used
Wasn't
to
he
be like,
concerned?
man, you,
Wasn't he concerned
hmm?
about the risk with the cops? Because back in them days, the police in Los Angeles were on a tirade.
Yeah, they was actually, but at the yards that we used to paint at, sometimes the cops would roll by and give us compliments and sit there and watch us paint and be like, damn, y'all fresh. The cops would be tripping like, man, y'all doing some good work most of the time, not all the time.
So this is a good segue to the beginning of your painting, right? Because in LA, um, you know, really came into the game, significantly in the mid '80s, right?
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
so one of the things that we've come to appreciate about that is that artists like yourself and Slick K2S, all these great crews came out of LA. Who were you looking at when you were younger in terms of a crew? In terms of what was your guiding star? In terms of graffiti style writing, or even just
Hmm.
getting through life, in the city. Finally, I'm up back
Okay.
up.
That's a good question. Well, let me say this. First, let me give props where credit is due. Um, I give credit to the style mecca, which is, back there on the East Coast in New York, where, the foundation of style came from in terms of that flavorable, style that has some motion to the letters. I definitely want to give a shout out to Case Two Rest in Peace, Phase Two Rest in Peace, and so many people to name, man. I had the privilege and the honor to actually sit down with those two gentlemen, Case Two, Phase Two. Man, it was so many other writers that I've actually had a chance to meet from the East Coast that actually enlightened me and gave me a lot of knowledge and wisdom about the art form, what it is that I'm doing. And I'm grateful and I'm honored and privileged to be able to sit in the presence of masters. And so I look at this in the way of that, when you hang with the best, you become the best. You know what I'm saying? So as far as all those writers from New York, you know what I'm saying, like that really had style, that was about putting in work and really doing like top of the line work. Shout out to my connection with my family, the magnificent team in New York. I'm the West Coast chapter out here in Los Angeles.
Yeah,
So
they're
with
legends,
Chain 3.
legends in the
Oh yeah.
culture.
There you go. So for them to bring me into the family of TMT, that's very special because that's my bridge to my extended family over there. Now, as far as on the West Coast, I want to say, man, first I want to give shout out to the big homie Soon One. When he came to LA in the early '80s and he was putting in work and he set a foundation with a particular flavor, a particular style of presenting the work with unique color schemes and doing stuff like that when LA was actually at a point of developing. Now we had people that was doing it, but it wasn't to that level yet. But let me say this. LA is big. Like I said, you got your South Side graffiti artists from LA or your writers from LA. You got you got your East LA writers, you got your Hollywood writers, and then you got your West LA writers. So me being a writer, I was privileged to be able to jump on those what we call the RTD buses out here, and I traveled around the city heavy. I used to go around and take photos all day with the old school 110 camera, take photos. I could get up close and personal with looking at other writers' pieces and just look at how clean their lines was, how smooth their blends was, and I look at they flavor of how they presented their work, which gave me something that I wanted to reach for with the quality. Because when that time period was around in LA, the standards were so high. It was so high to
Who
the
was
point
setting
to
the
where,
standards?
oh, okay, well, I say this from South Central, uh, may Clever rest in peace. He had a crew called DEF, the Bomb Force crew in DEF. He actually set the standard for a lot of us on the south side of LA. My partner, which is actually my mentor, his nickname is Rish, Rish, Rish. Rish was my mentor. He set the standard for us. My buddy Mark Seven. Insane and Sinner and them, they set the standards. From East LA to K2S's, the UCA undercover artists, STNs, DTK crew from out there in the valley with
Yep.
Charlie, Blinky, and
Yep.
Sky, and who else, man? From Hollywood, you had the ABC crew. You had
So let me ask
you
you a
know,
question about all these crews, and
okay,
as you're traveling LA on RTD, those that
hmm
don't know the rough, tough, and dangerous
yep,
bus, right?
that's right.
Did you get off and did you go actively try to meet these guys, or was it all territorial or adversarial? Because
Good
there were
question.
a lot of gangs in each neighborhood. You know what I'm saying?
Oh
You
yeah,
had cliques.
yep, that's true. That is definitely the truth. We had writers' corners out here in LA too. We had writers' corners out here. And what would happen is that my mentor, I had two mentors. My second mentor's name was Bazaar One. And Bazaar, he would take me uh, to the writers' corners to go meet other writers. And we would jump on the buses and we would sit and meet other people sign books. And it was cool, man. Going to art stores, grabbing materials. And, I definitely had a good time coming up doing
How
stuff
old were
like
you?
that. At that
How,
time, I was 13, 14 years old when I actually got active on the scene. Keeping in mind, I was a different kind of kid growing up. When I say different, I mean that at the age of 9 years old, I was doing this kind of art form on paper already. But I was more inspired by the gang graffiti as I was growing up in the early 80s, 'cause that's all we had out here in LA was like real nice stylized gang graffiti. And so as I was coming up, that was like a little bit of motivation up until we saw what the East Coast style of graph was like. And once we got a hold of what we consider to be the Bible of graph, which is subway art, then we use that as a guideline of standard. But we already know it's one thing to be inspired, but we know the rule is not to be biting. So our objective was not to bite, but to take styles, twist them, put them into our own little personal flavors, and develop and grow and smash. And man, we was putting out some heavy work in the golden age of LA.
I would confess to this because I was there for 5 years between 95 and 2000,
Hmm.
and so many great productions throughout LA. Everywhere I went, I was seeing just top-notch work from you guys and AWR, K2S, and
Yep.
all these guys. So
Hmm.
I saw it firsthand. It was really amazing because experiencing graffiti in the way that I did, where it was moving, is much different when you walk into communities, right? And how
Correct.
each
Yep.
community defined their style very differently.
That's correct.
Yeah, especially from the east
You
to the
know what?
south.
That's a good point. Because when you go to different parts of the city, each side of town had a particular signature thumbprint of style that they was doing. That you could tell, oh, they from over there in East LA or downtown area.
Hmm.
Not that they had to stick to that, but it was a certain kind of influence that they were surrounded by that gave them a certain look from wherever their surrounding area was. But when you
Correct.
traveled a lot back then, before we had the internet, we just got on those buses and we just looked around at the pieces and took pictures of it. We would exchange photos, have photo albums, and we would study. We would study.
Sounds
It was
familiar.
cool to, oh yeah, man. And then back then, a lot of writers didn't want to really show you their secrets to how they was representing. So you really had to be a close person to those people in order to learn what it was like to be able to get to those levels. Um, as an example, Hex from TGO. When Hex invented the real small, thin, skinny caps and was doing all these details
Wow,
in his pieces, that caught on like wildfire, man. A
that
lot
was
of
huge.
people, yeah, Hex was ahead of his time, and he was setting a trend for people to really want to push their artistic abilities to another level.
Right. So
Slick
I'm
was
glad you.
pushing itself like that.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned it because innovation from LA was so important in the development of contemporary graffiti and contemporary street art.
Correct.
I mean, it would set
Correct.
the stage for a whole different way of painting and using color, and also the caps, and also blending, like by siphoning, right? One
Correct.
of the
Yep.
things I want to move a little bit forward with
Okay.
your community paintings, because you said we were talking about Nipsey before, and
Hmm.
you've met him, and you unfortunately later in life have to paint a mural to honor him. What was that like? What
Hmm.
was that encounter like?
I met Nipsey in 2009. Uh, the homies had a shop. Well, actually, they have a book, a magazine called All Hood Publications. So in All Hood Publications, they magazine focused on gang street culture and beautiful women in the book. And so basically, over at the headquarters for All Hood Publications, what happened was Nipsey came through the door. This is when he didn't have the beard and he had the young face and the two little braids on the side, and he looked way different than what we normally see on the murals people painting these days. But when he came in, you know, he was a different kind of dude back then. He had that street what they call swag to himself, and he came in there. And my buddies, they introduced me. They say, "Yo, create. This is Nipsey right here, man. He from the hood, and he's gonna be the next, you know, artist on the charts that's gonna be really, you know what I'm saying, making a difference." So at that time when he said that, I was like, okay, hey, time is gonna tell. Let's see what homie gonna do. And Nipsey show did, man. He came out the gate doing his thing real strong. And there will be times now, mind you, a lot of people see people in the industry and they make it and they stay away from the hood. Nipsey was one of those people, man, where I would be at different places getting me something to eat and he'd be right there. I'm like, yo, what's up, Nipsey? You remember me, the artist that was painting? He said, yeah, I remember you, little homie. What's up? I'm like, all right, you know what I'm saying? And right before his situation happened with his death, I saw him a couple of months before that at a restaurant called Simply Wholesome. And Nipsey actually told me, he said, hey man, I might need you to do some artwork for my clothing line. Cause they wanted some new ideas and concepts. So, you know, we sat there and talked for a minute and we set up a point to where we was gonna have a chance to build with one another. So that way we could see what we could produce. But it's just unfortunate that that situation happened with his death. You know, so yeah, that's the situation with me knowing Nip, and then doing the mural for him that a lot of artists, man, in LA that was out here. They like my buddy named Ink One from RTN. You know, he did a couple of murals, man, that blew people minds. His photos were so super realistic that they blew people mind. My buddy named Ace One, you know what I'm saying, from Ace Born from LA, he blew their mind. I have a partner named Gnu Roxwell, which in the photo that you see on the screen right now, I did the letters and Gnu Rockwell, he did the portrait of Nipsey right there. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a
that's the
beautiful,
situation.
beautiful mural. I mean,
Thank you.
it really speaks volumes to how a community can heal its trauma from art, from murals, from
Yep,
your local artist, your local talent. But you have to nurture that talent, right? And that's why you're still there. You're still saying, who's the next one, two, three that will carry on this tradition in this community?
correct. Yeah, you know, it's all about carrying the torch. I come from what I consider to be the masters and the greats. So I hold a serious responsibility to to keep elevating and to help reach back to bring up other young artists that want to be great. You know what I'm saying? So my crew is all about doing quality work, helping the community, and help bringing up other talented artists and having people who have discipline, they spiritually, mentally, and physically. That's one thing that I always tell people. That's what this art form is all about. It's spiritual, it's mental, and it's physical. And once you apply all those to your artwork, man, sky is the limit, you know. And I also tell people this, that based upon how you come to this art form, determine what you would get out of it. So if you're
Yeah,
destructive and you stay in that lane and you just want to terrorize everything, oh, believe me, there's serious penalties and consequences for your actions.
I'm glad
Then
you
you got
say.
people.
Let me interject because I'm glad you say that because this drawing really embodies that. You've described this drawing very interestingly before about the central character with the pencil and the snakes coming around.
Uh huh.
Uh, you know,
Yeah.
is that metaphor in the work about you, uh, uh, about this craft, about I know I don't want to assume what you may think about it. Why don't you tell us what you think about it?
Okay, that's one of my pieces for a series that I created. It's called The Defender of Style. What does
Hmm.
that mean? The Defender of Style. Well, I created a series of different characters that I may use as a symbolically to protect my styles of what I've created. And so, you know, we know that the snakes are like poisonous. They spit out poisonous venoms and they biters. So that character right there, he represents the letter E. So it's CRE, which is the character, and then the 8. And then my character, he got instead of a number 2 pencil, he got the number 8 pencil. So his pencil is magical. And what he's doing is, you know, he's keeping the biters away. And so this piece is a very special piece because this piece is at the Getty Museum in their private collection, which is a thick book of 150 writers and artists called the Black Book of Friends. It's at the Getty Museum at the
Well, you know
Research
what?
Institute.
Now that you mention it, I'm gonna bring us there, uh, so that people see it. Let me go back up.
Hmm.
Um, this was an interesting project that I was curious about. I'm glad you mentioned it. Um,
Uh-huh.
Tell me how this concept came about. You know, with the Getty, because you know it's a really ambitious project, but it has a deeper meaning, as to why this project even happened for archival reasons. It like I said, they call it the Book of Friends, right? Is that the
Yes, the Book of
translation?
Friends. Hmm.
Tell
That's
us how this
correct.
project came about.
There was a gentleman by the name of Ed Sweeney and some other people. They presented it to the museum at the Getty, and they thought that this was a great idea. And so there was a few artists, which myself were co-curators. We're co-curators to the project. Our duty was to gather, I think, 25, I think, artists, maybe a little bit more each. And so we all had to bring in whoever we felt was qualified to be part of this book. And so, as a co-curator in my position for this book, my mission was to bring in the top of the line writers from my circle. I'm talking about people who never got their respects from way back. That was like from the neighborhood where I came from, but they was masters back then. So I pulled up a lot of people that people never even heard of or people never seen. And so once again, that was my responsibility, my duty, and my mission was to make for sure, since this is history, that we definitely make an impact in this book. You know, I told a lot of my partners that I brought into this project, whatever you do, I said, make for sure it's 100% plus some quality work. Don't come in there doing a bunch of scribble scrabble in the book. Don't be half stepping. I want you to come with top shelf work, you know what I'm saying, like a real boss, and come in there and get busy. And guess what? Man, we rocked the house. All my homies came in there when they put in work. You know what I'm saying? I told him, man, we got to be official like a referee's whistle, and we just got to make it happen.
And so that I imagine was your crew, your RTN crew, right? Was a big part of this.
Yeah, RTN crew and other friends and affiliates of the crew. So it wasn't just like specifically my crew, but my crew did play a major role in the book. But you know, I definitely reached out to a lot of people that was like people who never really got their full acknowledgement or they never, like I say, they never got their shine. So I had to make for sure, since I was in a position to reach back and pull my peoples back up.
How Let me ask you a question. How unified is the graffiti writers community? Is I mean,
Mm,
given that it's such a wide open state,
hmm.
how let's just
Uh,
talk about where you are, like in LA
uh-huh.
proper. Is there kind of
Okay,
unity
how
against writers
the
with writers?
unity? Well, I think back in the old days, in LA in the golden days, there was more of a unity because everybody was anxious to meet who was who. It was like being a superstar in your own right. it was to the point to where everybody was like, man, I want to see who this person is that's doing these fresh pieces. And so it was more of a unity back then because everybody was fresh on the scene trying to be somebody. Uh, some people didn't never want to be seen, so they stayed off the radar. Now, I'll say this, in today's time, we don't really have a lot of places where we go paint. So now you got a bunch of art shows at galleries and art walks, and it's a whole different vibration. You got people.
How far is the disconnect between that and where where you come from, from the hip hop
Uh-huh.
culture, the hip hop generation?
Oh, that's deep. Cause look, now we got these areas where they do the gentrification, that right. So it's a whole different breed of people who walk through there. And so what happens is that some of those people, they're into what we call street art, which is a whole nother element of using aerosol, which is separate from style writing. And so sometimes they get both of them mixed up and they think that we do all the same thing because we're using the tool of a spray can. And I share with people that those are two different things that are separate entities, even though the tool might be the same, but the content is different. And so the disconnection of that is totally different. But what I will say to that is this, is that, in order for us to be unified, we need to definitely I think have more places where we could go and we could paint like we used to, but we times has changed. So there are a few places that still exist where me and my crew members and other crews are able to go out and we able to do a lot of the things that we do as far as connecting and being able to appreciate all of us as a unit. I ain't talking about just my crew. I'm talking about other crews as well. So when we do come together in LA, we do appreciate each other's presence in the setting.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I've always liked about LA, and yourself included, that it wasn't it wasn't territorial. It was like you were looking to paint with some of the best painters available in the community, but also uh, the right events.
Yeah.
You've been participating in so many public events and jams, like hip hop jams, for so many years. Uh, how has that changed in terms of today's uh, community activity? Are you still seeing, local jams that are in that same spirit where you can actually paint and b-boy or b-girl and MC?
Oh, thank you for that. Here's what I'll say to that. We have the B-Boy Summit out here in LA.
Yeah,
And the
Asia.
B-Boy Summit, yeah, with Asia One, much respect to No Easy Props, and the homie Easy Rock, you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? This B-Boy Summit event in the Radiotron event, it brings out the whole culture, from the B-Boys, all the elements. And every time there's an event like that, they always make for sure that they have writers able to design the backdrop, to design the flyers most of the time, and to do live painting. So that way people could understand that in this culture of hip hop, it ain't just about MCing and that's it. We make for sure that this whole event is an educational event. So when people come to the events like the B-Boy Summit, the Radiotron, freestyle session or whatever, you're seeing a lot of different elements composed into one thing under one umbrella, which is hip hop. And so that's one thing that I appreciate. I remember when I first went to the B-Boy Summit in 97, man, that was a whole weekend. There's nothing but pure hip hop. I wake up to hip hop. Going to Miami to the Pro AM with Zulu Gremlin and Speedy
Hmm.
Legs and them, and being there and meeting Dash from Fame City and meeting Doze over there. Man, it was like, wow, man, just being in the same environment with legends, and at the same time me being a legend from where I come from. So what I'm saying, the respect was mutual. What I'm saying? So I definitely, what I'm saying, show respect to all the elements of how we getting down. That's one thing about me I would say is that I'm respected in all elements of the culture because I am a B-boy. I do break. I'm an old school popper. I know how to pop. You know,
Hmm.
I'm not a DJ, but all my homies are the top of the line DJs and producers. I'm not an MC, but man, all my homies, they top of the line MCs. You can best believe that. Yes,
You got
indeed.
backup. But again, you stand on your own and throughout this culture, and not just in the true form, the original like street level hip hop community. You've done commercial work with hip hop artists like Bow Wow. You have a commercial. You've done
Yes.
a lot of commercial projects, and is that how you balance out your career between education and commercial work?
Thank you for that question. I want to give a shout out to ICU Art in Creative Unity Art. In Creative Unity, ICU Art has been a major force behind me doing a lot of my commercial artwork for people. It's through ICU Art that a lot of doors was open, and also, truth be told, a lot of my skill level of painting growed in terms of painting realistic portraits, doing realistic automobiles, and having that discipline to deal with art directors, creative directors, learning how to take constructive criticism from these clients and not always just thinking that everybody's going to like what you do right off the top.
Right.
Being in the commercial art field in the industry is very challenging. It's very challenging. It's so challenging to where the competition is heavy and thick. So you have to always stay 10 steps ahead with good skill levels so that you could always be the selected chosen one to be able to do these projects.
How
And
did you get, let me, if you don't mind me asking, how did you get selected for this Jennifer Lopez project,
oh, okay.
her concert?
Oh, thank you for that question. Once again, shout out to my partner PJ from West Coast Artists, one of the originals, rest in peace. He actually bought that job to me. Me and him did that as a collaboration as a team. PJ did the artwork. I digitized it, and I also put my spin on a few of the things that we did for Jennifer Lopez. And man, it turned out good. You know, the artwork on the dancers and the people standing on stage. Man, I had such a good time doing that. Mind you, I only had so many hours to do all that work. Man, when somebody in the commercial art field give you a job, they might tell you the night before, and they gonna pay you a lot of money, but they gonna tell you, hey, I need this by the first thing in tomorrow morning. You either gonna complain about it or you gonna put your big boy drawers on and man up and get the job done. So when PJ bought the job to me, I represented. Still tall like a man and got this job done. And look what
No,
we
it's an amazing
manifested.
accomplishment. Somebody has, Artist Notions asked, tell them about the Dr. Dre backdrop. What should we know about that?
The Dr. Dre backdrop. Well, I'll say this. We did do something at this place called the Century Club out here in LA.
Yeah,
It's a
I know
club
the
called, it
Century.
used to exist. Yeah, the Century Club, yeah. Dr. Dre had his birthday party over there, and we was commissioned to do the backdrop. So when people walked into the event, it was red carpet. We was commissioned to do, me and my partner named Chuck, you know what I'm saying, from the
Yep,
crew.
Poppin' Chuck.
We Poppin' Chuck, there you go. We did the background for Dr. Dre. It's called Eve After Dark. It was an old club that they used to run, and that's when it wasn't that much hip hop in LA. Yeah, it was all funk and that kind of stuff jumping off back in the clubs back then, the funk music. Yep.
So, given this amazing journey you've had so far, how are you coping with Corona right now? How's it affecting your studio work, your motivation? I mean, of course, you even as a motivational speaker, you need some motivation for yourself. How do you keep that level up?
Thank you for that. Yeah, dealing with this epidemic, man, is something else. What I will say is by having a strong spirit and having a strong mind, I stand firm on that. So I try not to get caught up in all the hype. And I ain't saying it ain't real. I'm not saying that one. But what I am saying is that, shit, man, take your herb, take your black seed oil, your echinacea pills, vitamin C, and stay healthy. Shit, you know what I'm saying? And you got to be a strong hustler to be able to stand strong on 2 feet and 10 toes and get busy. You know, and now mind you, I might say that very easily out of my mouth, but the challenge is a tough one. because you got to be able to now reinvent yourself to social media. And so that I can't go speak to people in colleges or institutions face to face. Now I'm on Zoom talking. Now I'm in magazines a little bit more as well. I'm doing radio interviews. So I'm trying to stay relevant. I'm trying to make for sure that people still hear what I'm saying. As far as artwork, you know, there are people who, at this point in time, they trying to be careful of how they spend their money. So they like, man, I wanted you to paint this mural, but for right now, they might say, I need to be careful where my money is spent. So I might do logos for people at a reasonable rate. You know, I might do small murals inside people's homes and paint canvases for people. You know, so that keeps me going. It keeps my they say always keep your sword sharp. So I keep my blade sharp at all time, man, my creative blade. And I do what I do, and I stay representing because I come from the street generation of the hustlers from LA, to where you had to move, stick and move, stay busy, but in a positive way. Learning how to take your creative energy and learning how to positively stay on the scene and make a way for yourself. You know what I'm saying? Being a strong believer in a higher power, which is God, for me, to keep me with the faith to be able to do the things that I do. Because if you don't have a strong faith and a strong foundation in which you stand on, you can easily fall and crumble to where there's nothing happening. And a lot of people are being depressed in this epidemic, to where, they sitting in the house, they say, oh, don't go nowhere. So they just bored. Man,
But
shit. I'm
what but
like,
what's
let me get
interesting
busy.
is those of us who came up in this culture like yourself in the graffiti writing culture,
Hmm.
in the hip hop culture, we have a resource. We have
That's
history.
right.
We have a creative ambition and curiosity, and that's what we've been seeing throughout your career. That it
Correct.
started on the wall, then it just blended itself into community and purpose,
Hmm.
and of course not deviating. And what's really nice to hear is that you're still upbeat about everything and focus on your purpose. At this point, I want to ask people to give us some questions, submit some questions to we've got the last 10 minutes with you.
Hmm.
Uh, please submit some questions to King Create. We've been talking with him for the full hour about his history, his legacy in LA, and his social activism and his commercial work. Um,
Hmm.
so if perhaps I'll ask you this: if if there was a choice, is there a choice for you to be considering about your work and where it
Hmm.
belongs, whether it's a gallery or in the public space? Where do you feel strongest uh, in terms of where your work lies?
Um, Thank you for that question. I appreciate that one. Man, my objective is to make for sure that my work I want my work to be appreciated in the galleries, museums. I still want to be able to have my artwork to where people could see it in the street. They have access to see it in the street in a good way.
Yeah.
And in institutions, corporate buildings, me going into the school, working with the young people, doing projects in the communities. That's one way personally that I would love to be able to continue. But you know what? I want to go to different countries. That's one thing I haven't done yet, has been to other countries to showcase my work. There are people who come to LA to do tours with us, and I've done lecture with people from Japan, people from I think over in Germany or Italy, and I've been able to shine some light on them with some wisdom about the culture. So that's been good.
Well,
So I'm
hopefully
I'm
that creates
definitely pushing for
opportunity.
that.
Yeah, that would be great
Oh yeah.
that you travel. You have a question from SecFink. With all the bus travel when you were young, actually, how active of a bus rider were you? I don't know if you said you were a bus rider. You rode
Yes,
the
I
buses,
was.
right?
Yeah.
You didn't tag buses, did you?
Yeah, I did.
You did?
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, I was very heavy into that because that was my first introduction in terms of being official. In order for us to be accepted, we had to be able to have nice tags when we got up. You know what I'm saying? We had to be able to understand the bus lines and how the way everything works. I had to have real nice throw ups. So, and then we had to be bad pieces. So, our pieces had to be like quality. Like I said before, the people that I hung around, they never allowed me to do anything whack. Everything that I did had to be of great quality, or else my homies would clown me and say, "Man, get up out of here with that whack stuff." So definitely, I was a qualified bus rider. What I'm saying, when I started, I want to give shout out to my homie named Mad, MAD, Mad One, out here in LA. He was a all city king out here back then, to where he destroyed all the lines back in the day. Saying what's up to the homie Al Ski. There was a lot of bus riders back then. Triax, a
Hmm.
lot of people, Flex from NTS, a lot of other homies from NTS crew that was putting in work. Man, my homies from CMA, CCA, everybody was out there putting in work. It was like meeting writers from all over the city, man. Like, it was so amazing, to where in order for you to stand out, you had to be able to, when you was mobbing those buses, you had to be able to make for sure your stuff stood out amongst 100 tags on that bus.
I appreciate that roll call so much. It's good to pay homage to those that made that history out in LA. I got a question
Hmm.
from Shirt King Fade. What's going on with the Crenshaw Wall project?
Okay. What up, Fade? As far as the Destination Crenshaw Wall project, that should be coming up soon. Only because I think the project is almost at completion. When I say the project, I'm talking about the train line. They said once the train line is almost to completion, then things should be moving forward with that project. So uh, we all looking forward to that, man, because we ready to get on there and just blaze it up again.
Nice.
Because it's gonna be a tourist attraction when people come out here to LA. Even the new generation in LA that's seeing the artwork, they're
Yeah.
gonna be amazed at what we're gonna do.
Yeah. South Central of 1980 is way different than it is today. That's for
Yes,
sure. A question
yes.
here from artists and notions. How you feel about being in Rap Pages 1996 with other OG New York City writers, Chicago, and other states. Remember
Thank you
Rap
for that
Pages?
question. Yeah,
That
Rap
that
Pages
was a
magazine, they had an issue that was focusing strictly on the aerosol art movement, and they featured us as they said South Central. I forgot how it went. Something but never forgotten. So they was basically saying that, we're when from being a South Central writer, we're like sort of overlooked. We not crying like crybabies about it. We are strong in what we represent, but the truth be told, we are overlooked a lot of the times. But it was a good thing for us to be featured in Rap Pages in that issue, because man, we was amongst a lot of talented writers, man, from all around. And so, that was an honor for us to tell our story and about our contribution as writers in the movement. Because it's like a big puzzle. We all play a certain part in this big puzzle to make a big picture in a statement.
brother. With that said, I really want to thank you for taking time to catch up with me and us, the community, and share your story,
Yep.
your art, what motivates you, and your give back to the community as well. I think that's so important to emphasize, is that it's within our grasp and opportunity to give back to the community that's given so much to us. And I see people like Curly from Canada. He's one of those that have benefited from people like yourself that have pushed it forward in the community to help uplift the community. Uh,
Thank you.
uh,
Thank you.
so with that, folks, I want to close out. If you have a closing statement for me, create. Let's get it. We
Mhm.
got 3 minutes.
Okay, I want to say this. I want to thank the Museum of Graffiti. I want to thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to be able to come on here and share some light and wisdom about my contribution and some of the other people from LA's contribution, to this movement. Shout out to my crew members from Rockin' the Nation, West Coast artists, L2S, Last to Survive, TMT crew, what I'm saying, and what I'm saying, my homies from the Rock Angels. I just want to say this, man, for a lot of the new generation writers, study your history. I also want you to be the next powerful moving force on the scene. There's a lot of competition worldwide, man, around this globe with this art form. and people are doing dynamic work. They're taking this aerosol art to another level that we never expected. And so I want LA as an example to be another force to be reckoned with how we get busy. You know what I'm saying? So, oh, one more thing, Mayor. Once the smoke cleared from this epidemic, man, I would definitely love to come down there to Miami and do a workshop live and direct and show
Our
people.
doors are
And
open, man. Hopefully, God willing, you know, this is all behind us sooner than later.
I hope so too, boy. Cause man, it's a roller coaster ride, man, for real.
Well, we have to adapt, and that's one of the things we're doing at the museum. And you were doing these talks. Brother Risky is going to be on tomorrow. Risk Rock
Okay.
is going to join us. You know, we have West Coast back to back, which is terrific. But
Yep.
we stay
Yep.
engaged with the community. One of the things I said at the top was like, look, go to our website, www.museumofgraffiti.org, and check out our
Hmm.
programming. Check out how you can get involved with our programming. We just released volume 5 of our coloring book, which is really dope. You know, everybody
Hmm.
contributed, which is super cool. And as you saw, you know, you've been keeping up with us. We just did the CES show, which was really dope. You know, we're trying to really stay as upbeat and connected and committed to this culture as we know how, as we adapt to this new reality, right?
That's
So
right.
with that, I want to thank you for sharing with us. And again, folks, tomorrow, as I close out in the final couple of seconds, we have Risky Rock coming through to us from Los Angeles tomorrow. He's OG legend as well from the West Coast. So again, you know, we're covering some ground. We're putting this puzzle together little bits by bits. And with that, I'm going to say good night because it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.